All right, what's the scoops of the cost of healthcare in America? Yesterday, President Trump took a huge step to address the cost of being sick in the United States. In fact, the president signed an executive order that will help to regulate what Americans will ultimately pay for prescription medication.
You know, I know there's been a lot of anxiety. Every time you hear the word executive order, you're like, oh no, what else is he cutting, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, I can understand that, especially for federal workers and organizations that rely on federal funding. And, you know, we've talked a lot about that on Island Life Live, so it's only fair that we bring this up because this is huge.
You know, it really is this. And, you know, I was 1 day old when I learned that the U.S. has less than 5% of the world's population. And yet we fund around 3/4 of global pharmaceutical profits. Now, according to the White House, drug manufacturers deeply discount their products to access or, get access or gain access to foreign markets. And then they subsidize that decrease through enormously high prices in the United States. That's why our medication is so darn expensive.
I guess they figure, oh, prosperous nation, they can pay for it, right? Is that the thought? Well, the order says that within 30 days, the administration will give price targets to drug makers to bring prices for American patients in line with comparably developed nations, which could mean drug prices will be lowered by as much as 90%.
That's crazy. We were talking about this off air about the difference in prices over here and then across the Atlantic pond, with in Europe.
Yes.
Some of those, I read something like Ozempic, they have like the 2-pack over here is like 650 or 700 something bucks.
$700.
But in Europe, the same 2-pack is 100, 150.
See, that's so crazy because I actually use Daily Mail. Daily Mail is a UK-based news organization, and I pull a lot of stories from that, and when I'm looking at these prices, I'm like, wait a minute, that's their Ozempic? Going to Google, do the
conversion or whatever.
Conversions from US dollars to UK pounds. I'm like, this is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
How much we pay in America.
Well, and I'm sure this is great news for our kupuna because here in Hawaii, of course, the cost of living is astronomical already, and then
Tag
you get sick,
medications to that.
boom. So again, very good news, and I was happy to hear about it for our ohana. Lina girl, we mention it all the time that we are caregivers, and sometimes when you go to the pharmacy, you're like, how much? So,
it's not the same prices as when you're on MedQuest, right?
Yeah.
It's that kind of stuff. Gas prices are going down, so is the price of eggs. And I'm hoping that we get a chance to see these same effects happen for us quickly.
Yeah. And I'm sure our viewers do too. But, I don't like assume nothing. So we want to ask you right now, what's the scoops? What do you think? You can bring in the graphic, Jay. Share your thoughts by sending us an email at islandlifelive@kitv.com because we want to know.
That's right. Now, this executive order is one of hundreds the president has signed since January, and that's a lot of Sharpie pens and paper. You know that, right? Can you imagine the record keepers at the National Archives? They're going crazy, right? They got to keep all this stuff, and they're going to be very busy, at least for the next 4 years.
Yeah, and definitely some job security. Now, our next guest will definitely